It's freezing. And I don't get cold. Everybody else
40 degrees.
Which is on the way. It's on the way. Sherman right now.
Close enough.
All right. Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. We'll get started. We do have a quorum. We'll declare the meeting open. I'm going to ask Deputy Mayor Howitt to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
If you would stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight as we begin the work of the city and the citizens. We pray that you will guide us, lead us, and show us the right decisions to be made for our citizens. Please be with those who are first responders who might have to be out in this weather. Please look after those who do not have warm homes to abide by. Let us all be grateful for the various blessings that you bestow on us each and every day. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
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 All right. Did everybody have an opportunity to look at the minutes from the last meeting, January 15th?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second?
Okay. Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right. We are going to have a special presentation. I'm going to ask Chief Jones if he'll come forward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, I'd like to introduce to you Jake Jones. This is a young man that we're here about tonight, and this is what this presentation is all about. Jake now is 13 years old. When this incident happened, he was 12 at the time. So let me tell you a little bit about what brings us here tonight with Jake. On October the 31st, 2017, after attending Fright Fest, Jake and his grandmother, Deborah Boyer, who's with us here tonight also, left the municipal grounds of Fright Fest. They proceeded to enter onto northbound Highway 75. Shortly after entering traffic, Jake noticed that the car was drifting towards the concrete barricades there at the highway. At that point, he heard his grandmother make an unusual sound. He looked over and noticed that his grandmother was not conscious and didn't have control of the vehicle that they were riding with. He undid his seatbelt, reached across to grab the steering wheel, put his leg over her leg so he could reach the brake with his foot on the brake pedal. He steered the car to the shoulder of the roadway and brought it to a safe stop. Jake then placed the vehicle in park. He got out of the vehicle. There were several cars pulling over at that time. A couple of them got out, and he told them to dial 911. After they did that, the people that had witnessed it, they pulled over to help. After calling 911, Sherman Fire Rescue was dispatched, so we arrived on scene, treated and transported Miss Boyer to the hospital. As it turns out, Jake's grandmother had experienced a major medical issue, but with treatment, again, she's here with us tonight. With the quick thinking of her grandson, Jake, we believe this event most likely, without the quick thinking of her grandson, we believe this event most likely would have turned out much worse. If Jake had not reacted the way that he did, himself, his grandmother, and possibly others traveling on that highway could have been seriously injured or worse. I asked Jake the other day what he was thinking at the time. He said he just knew that they were headed towards the barriers and he needed to get the car stopped. Pretty level-headed for a 12-year-old. Jake, because of what we consider your heroic actions that night, on behalf of the Sherman Fire Rescue and the City of Sherman, we would like to present you with our Lifesaver Award in the form of your very own fire helmet with a custom-made shield and a certificate of our appreciation. Jake, you are only the second person to ever receive this award. You should be extremely proud of your actions that night. The members of Sherman Fire Rescue and the citizens of Sherman are very proud of you. We thank you and congratulate you for being a lifesaver. Lifesaver Award, this is to verify that Jake Jones is hereby recognized for his life-saving efforts on October the 31st, 2017. Okay. There you go.
All right.
Wow. Congratulations on that great award. All right. This time we'll open public hearing. Linda, if you'll read C1 for us.
Ordinance 6098, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sherman amending Section 8, subsection 5A, ordinance number 2280, so as to grant a specific use permit to allow the drilling of an oil gas well in a C2 General Commercial District at 1220 East Peyton Street, being 6.817 acres in the J.B. McInerney Survey, abstract number 763. JIREH Properties Company and Sherman H&P Corporation owners. Curry Vogelsang, representative. Frank McCulloch, BMNW Resources LLC, representative. Roth Operating Company LLC, drilling company. And Helvey Wagner Surveying Incorporated, surveyor. Providing for a repealer, providing that this specific use permit shall be granted subject to certain conditions, providing a penalty not to exceed $2,000, finding that the meeting at which this ordinance is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Thank you, Linda. Scott?
Yeah, this is a final step for the specific use permit for this oil well. It was approved by Planning and Zoning February of 2017. However, they've been waiting on the Railroad Commission for some permits. Now they have those in hand, so they're moving forward. This was a unanimous recommendation.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Is there anyone here to address this item this evening? No? Okay. At this time, we'll close public hearing and consider adoption of the ordinance. Council, any questions on this item?
Nothing on its end.
Scott, so I was reading the staff review letter, and there's just going to be certain hours that they can drill, or how's that work? I know we've had those in the past, and we've restricted certain hours that they can drill.
Yeah, they'll have to comply with all the items on the staff review letter.
I know we've required some sound barriers or light barriers or something like that.
No.
In this case?
No.
Haven't heard anything from the residents in that neighborhood?
No, this is kind of behind the old Pizza Inn on Texoma Parkway.
There are some residents there fairly close over there.
There are some. There's across the creek and through some trees.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Somebody want to make a motion on this item?
Make a motion, go ahead.
You go ahead.
Make a motion for the adoption of ordinance 6098.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are down to the consent agenda. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted in one motion without discussion unless a council member or a citizen requests a specific item be discussed and voted on separately. The consent agenda includes items D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, E1, F4, F5, F6, F7, and F8. Would anybody like to pull any of these out of the consent agenda for discussion? No? Okay, can we get a motion on consent?
Make a motion.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are down to D1, Resolution 6334. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman canceling an award of bid and contract with Austin Raymond Construction based on an invitation to bid for construction of the Sherman Streetscapes Phase 2 project rebid. Finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Clint?
This is a downtown streetscape project that was grant funded by TxDOT. We originally bid this project in August and received 2 bids. One of those bids was incomplete and the second one was deemed unqualified. So we came back to you in October to rebid the project. We again received 2 bids. The low bid was deemed unqualified again, and we actually awarded the contract to Austin Raymond, who is the second bidder. Because of the grant funding, it does require concurrence with TxDOT when we don't pick the low bidder. And so we had sent everything off to TxDOT. They concurred, but then they had to send it to the Federal Highway Department. And the Federal Highway Department, after some phone calls and some discussions, decided that they weren't going to concur because we didn't choose the low bid. So that results in this agenda item. We had the option of going with the unqualified contractor or rebidding for a third time, or possibly canceling the project or paying for the project ourselves. So we're going to try a third time. The next item will actually be asking to reject the bids and rebid the project a third time in hopes that we can find a low bidder that is qualified.
Okay. Thank you, Clint. Council, any questions on 6334?
So Clint, what was it that we found unqualifying for the candidate, but that the Highway Department thought was okay?
After we received the bids, we asked for a statement of qualification, and a part of that statement of qualifications is references. And we called multiple references that didn't have the best to say about the contractor, and actually met with the contractor to get additional references or to get his version of what was going on, and received another reference that he provided, and that reference was also bad. So
We didn't want him doing it.
That's that question.
So what can be done in the future? It seems like all you have to do to kill something is be an unqualified bidder. I mean, if the federal government doesn't think that qualifications is an important thing, how can we prevent this from happening over and over and over into perpetuity?
Well, so on this particular one, this project involves federal funds. Most projects that we do don't involve federal funds. It also should be noted that TxDOT was okay with how we were proceeding. It was the federal government who had the final checkoff on this. So what I would say in the future is we have very few federal projects, so it shouldn't be a big problem anyway. But I'm always going to make sure that our staff qualifies the folks that are bidding. And if we can't get, references is a pretty basic thing. So we rely on the references that people give us to check their work history. And so we would rather rebid it in this case than go with someone that doesn't give us clean references. So we're just crossing our fingers that third time's a charm here, and that we'll get bidders that are qualified, and that will pass the the test for both state and federal purposes.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay, we get a motion on 6334.
Motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, F3, consider rejection of bids for construction of the Sherman Streetscape Phase 2 project. Clint?
Yeah, so this is just actually rejecting the bids. Resolution canceled the contract for Austin Raymond, and this one is to reject the bids.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a little bit confusion. We took
moved F3 out.
F3 out of
Yeah.
order to
Gotcha.
couple it
Correct.
with D1,
Yeah.
so I apologize.
Accepted.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Sophie, for that.
I'll make a motion, we approve F3.
Okay.
Second it.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now D2. Linda, if you'll read that for us.
Resolution 6335, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Sherman authorizing the purchase of playground equipment for the Parks and Recreation Department from Miracle Recreation through the Texas Local Government Purchasing Cooperative by Board. Finding that the meeting at which this resolution is passed was noticed and is open to the public as required by law.
Okay, thank you, Linda. Teresa, you want to tell us about this item? Okay.
I'll show you some pictures here in a minute, but this is two playgrounds that we're going to replace. One is at MLK Park, next to the East Street Pavilion, and then we're also adding some equipment over on Rex Cruz Park which is real close to a lot of new homes. It's through Miracle Playground on Bike Loop.
Okay. Does the Rex Cruise, what is the name of the Rex Cruise Park?
Rex Cruise Park?
Well, there you go. Excellent.
Hey, Teresa, I got one quick question. On the bid that we received, it says installation is not included.
Right.
But in the proposal, it says that we are approving the installation included in that price.
That bid is for installation also.
Okay, even though it doesn't say that.
It should say that.
Okay.
I didn't think it said it either.
Installation is not included in this proposal. Anyways, you might check that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says it's not.
It says it's not, and so I was curious. Thanks.
I do have a question. I don't know if it's for you or Robbie, but I know we've talked a lot in the past about using local folks to bid these type of projects out. Are we still making efforts on that to quote this locally first and before we move to the buy board?
Yeah, to the extent possible. So there's kind of two components to this, as Willie just brought out. One's the actual equipment that's going to be installed. The second is the installation of it. Do we do any of the installation ourselves, or do we sub that out?
We do on occasion, primarily the fall zone and the borders around the fall zone.
Okay. So the short answer is yes, but this is fairly specialized equipment. So there's no one here in Sherman that we're aware of that even provides this type of equipment. And in terms of bidding it out, have we talked about buy board before? Do you guys know what buy board is? So it's this government cooperative that we're able to comply with the state bidding laws, because the state bids these out. This purchasing cooperative bids these tons of materials and equipment and cars and trucks and fire engines and things like that. So they bid this out on a statewide level, and then we're, as a member of the cooperative, are able to take advantage of their bidding process to get economies of scale and to make sure that the bidding was done in a competitive manner, et cetera. So much of the equipment that we buy, I would say majority of the equipment that we buy, whether it's a garbage truck or a parks truck or a fire truck or playground equipment or whatever, is done through buy board or HGAC or another purchasing cooperative. Now, there are a few times where we kind of get, I don't want to say lucky, but where there is a local vendor that can do some of the things, particularly on vehicles, because we do have the ability to give a local preference. If a bidder is within 5%, it can be higher, but if it's within 5% of the lowest bid, then we can actually give that preference to a local vendor, even though they're not the lowest bidder. So in this particular case, there are no providers of playground equipment, and I don't know whether we're going to use someone to actually, a local vendor to actually install this particular thing or not, but more than likely we are. But the installation cost, I'm assuming, Teresa, is going to be something less than the purchase cost.
Right.
Yes, so we're talking about two pieces or two.
It sounded like the installation was included in that.
Yeah, yeah, so if it was, then it's a non-issue. If it wasn't, then we will get quotes for that typically, because it's not going to be more than $50,000, so we won't be required to bid it out. So we'll have it covered either way, I guess, in that case. So I don't know if the crux of your question was, are we following the bid laws, or are there people locally who have this type of equipment, or?
Yeah, I know a company that offers this type of equipment locally.
In Sherman?
In Howe.
Hunter Nepshide. Hunter Nepshide. We do have one playground that we are installing over at Hahn right now through them.
Okay. Well, that's why I was just wondering if, I mean, not that we have to use the same company every time. I was just making sure that we give our local businesses the first shot at these kind of things.
Sure. And just so you know, too, the local, so I prefer to do local as well, but the preference for state law is within the city of Sherman, by the way.
Right.
So we can't go Howe, Pottsboro, Denison, Whitesboro. It's really within the Sherman city limits. But to the extent that we can benefit Grayson County, we can do that. But we do look at, at Ramey or Utter or, Hoyt for vehicles, for instance. On occasion, Brett Graham at International, or so, yeah.
It doesn't say what kind of safety surface was going to be put down, or I didn't, maybe I overlooked
It's
it.
the wood fiber.
Okay, you're going to put the wood fiber. We're going to have to start over from scratch and put all new, because there is some equipment already there,
There
but
is, but there is absolutely no fall zone.
no, there's not.
material. So
And so we're not looking at paying for that tonight. That's not included in this at all. That'll have to come up later, correct? Okay.
All right, good discussion. Any other questions, council? Okay, can we get a motion on 6335?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we will now receive a presentation from,
She's going to do it?
yeah, she's not running off, from
her.
Parks and Recreation Manager Teresa Hutchinson on the Parks Master Plan and Planned Parks Project. Teresa?
The Grinch.
There we go. Okay, as you're aware, this year, there was $5.125 million budgeted for parks improvement throughout the city. A majority of that was for the Pecan Grove Athletic Complex. I'm just going to go down the line here and then go through some pictures. That was at 4.5. We have Ely Park Playground, Fairview Park Sidewalk along Taylor, Lamar Street Green Space, and then there was $500,000 that was designed to address issues that were revealed in the Parks Master Plan process. So this is the bulk of the CIP investment. This project is, as you know, west of the Pecan Grove Park on Canyon Creek. This is the newest rendering that we have. This is a two-phase project. The first phase will include the 4 ball fields and then a wide open green space that will include soccer fields. In that space, there's enough area to handle all of the fields that we currently have at Fairview, plus 5 or 6 smaller fields in addition. The second phase would include the spray ground, the playground, lighting for the fields, and all of the park amenities to the east, the pavilion, that sort of thing. The first phase does include parking and the walking trail. Currently, we are working with Duncan Sims to come up with a design for it, and we should be advertising for a construction manager at risk in the next few weeks or so. Ely Park.
Lisa, let me jump in on
Sure.
this too. So if you would go back. So she mentioned that this project is kind of in 2 phases. One is the ball fields, the quadplex ball fields for softball, baseball, and then the open areas and parking lot for the soccer, with phase 2 being things like lighting and the spray ground, the playground and restroom facilities, whatever that is. I can't read that with my old eyes, but on the east side of the thing. So just so you know, we have, Terrence has reached out to Texoma Health Foundation to ask if they would be willing to participate in this. And so we're waiting to hear back from them. It was a good conversation, and I think all we can say right now is I think summertime is when we would have more conversation about it. That's when their, grant period or, so we know that they're interested in regional projects, and so we reached out to them to see if they would be willing to partner with possibly helping out with the phase 2 of this project. So more to come on that.
Teresa, ultimately, the goal is to not have the soccer fields at Fairview.
What I would envision is the field that are at Fairview now would become practice space. Mhm. Yes, yes. Ely Park Playground, this, it's currently on the ground. Kids are playing on it probably as we speak. So it is 2 play structures and some swings. As you know, Ely Park is located in South Sherman off Rusk. It's surrounded by veterans, crepe myrtles. That's a real interesting aspect of this park. It was replaced equipment that was old and not as safe. The new equipment is much safer. with the current fall zones that we've added. Fairview walking path, if you've driven down Taylor, the sidewalk from where the pool is all the way west to the western edge of Fairview Park has been replaced. It was a narrow stretch of sidewalk that wasn't very level. We've replaced it with a wider, nice level where people can walk their dogs. Very popular trail. Lamar Street green space, the city purchased about 12 acres on the western edge of the city there on Lamar Street, where the old mobile homes were that were kind of an eyesore.
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. We've already gone in and cleared out some of the space. We plan on adding a natural surface walking trail through there, more of a serene area, has some beautiful trees that, but the best thing about this project is that it's located right next to Binkley Park and right next to Center Street Park and right next to Lamar Street Playground. So we hope to in the future someday be able to bridge across the creek so that we can extend our biking trails. Okay, so the $500,000 that we had to address the master plan, we took that before our Parks Board in November, kind of had a brainstorming session. The staff had come up with some ideas, the Parks Board came up with some ideas, and we came back in December, and the Parks Board, using the public input meetings information as well as the national standards, came up with a plan. This is the plan that they had for the $500,000, and it addresses the top 3 things that were brought out in the community input sessions. The first 3 revolved around walking trails. This is approximately 700 feet on the north side of Fairview Walking Trail. It's very dark there. We've had some issues. So we're adding some LED lighting that will hopefully eliminate it and make it a safer place for people to walk in the evenings. Currently, the concrete bases are already installed, and we're just waiting for the light fixtures to come in. Also, in regards to the number 1 request from the public input, where the trail at Baker Lake, we have this bridge that we're replacing on the left with a bridge that looks similar to that on the right. Of course, the one on the left is we're always having to repair it, replace boards. It's just not very sturdy. So we feel like the one on the right will give us a lot more extended wear, and we could actually have bicycles ride on that also. We are also working on creating a bike and trail master plan, also with Duncan Sims. And within the next few weeks, you should be starting to see our first step in that plan to install these bicycle boulevard signs on Cleveland Street and Mulberry Street on the east side of Sherman. We're really excited about that, aren't we, Sean?
Is that not on Brockett Street also by Austin College?
You're right, toward Austin College.
For connectivity to
That's
downtown from the college.
Oh, okay.
So we're hoping that the plan will use current and future streets as well as easements to increase the connectivity all through town.
Hey, one of the things, let me jump in here as well. So one of the things we've talked about with TxDOT as they're thinking about and making plans and design for Highway 75 redo here is we've told them about this project and about our desire to have connectivity from, across Sherman from east to west and vice versa. I mean, we'll see what that's going to reveal in terms of their actual design, but we've let them know our desire is to have places where we can safely cross the 75 corridor. So we think and are hopeful that whatever the ultimate design ends up being is going to be one that can get us connect parks and connect other things from both sides of town. Right now it's hard. You can go over the little catwalk, but just not a very good designated route and safe route. So we're hopeful that we're able to do that as part of the 75 project as well.
Okay, the second project that was listed on the community input meeting was skate park. We, as we told you last city council meeting, we have contracted with SBA Skate Parks out of Austin to design a unique skate park in Sherman. This is photo of a skate park that they designed in Watauga at basically the same budget level. Just wanted to show you a few pictures of that, just so you have an idea of what we might see in Hahn Park. That's still, they have just started on the design on that, so we're a few months out. Dog park was the number 3 item listed on the community input session. We're going to have a first community input meeting specifically about the dog park at our Doggy Paws, or Marty Paws this weekend. And we're trying to get input from the community, see what they would like to see in a dog park. And then, of course, we'll work with animal services and other vets and things like that in the community to make sure that we come up with some good rules to put in place at this dog park. These are the 2 playgrounds that we talked about. We have the MLK on the top, and then on the lower is the Rex Cruise Park. Currently, Rex Cruise has 1 piece of playground equipment. So this will be a great addition for all the new homes that have been built over that way.
Slide.
And then with the remaining money, we're looking at some new signage for some of our parks that have old signs. We figure with the new upgraded playgrounds, it would be nice to have some signs that reflect the level that we'd like to be at. As well as some windscreens, some netting around softball fields. On the bottom right, one of our Parks Board members was interested in adding some not necessarily playground, but some sort of amenities to the parks that people could play while they're out there. So we're researching some concrete type games that are fairly vandalism proof to add to some of the parks. Also, this is a project that doesn't have any, that was brought to us through the Sherman Rotary. Last summer, they came to us wanting to donate $10,000 to add a playground into a lower income area park. This playground, which we did purchase through the local vendor, Hunter Nepshine, is currently installed at Hahn Park at the lower level. We're just waiting to add 1 more bench and it'll be finalized. And once I called Deb Boring from Rotary about this, she was eager to announce that they are intending to give us another $10,000 this next year to install another playground. So we're really excited about that, and it's a great cooperation between the 2. Okay, so after all of the projects that I mentioned, we have addressed in some manner 11 of the top 20 suggestions from the community input meeting. So we're really excited about that. Not that we have addressed hike and bike trails 100%, because that's something that we will always be addressing. But we feel like we have at least touched on every single one of the 11 in some respect. And then we've also, I made this map to kind of outline where we're doing our projects, just to show that we are doing projects all over the city in all 4 quadrants. It's always an issue that we feel like we need to stay on top of. And that's it. Are there any questions?
So the Little League football, they haven't addressed any issues with park,
Little League football
space?
currently isn't using any of our facilities.
Really?
The green space out at Pecan Grove could absolutely use.
That's what I was thinking.
Those fields. Or Center Street's also available too. And TCS football has used Center Street fields.
Okay.
Yeah. That space out at Pecan Grove is going to be a wide open space of grass that'll be very flexible. Could be used for anything from soccer, lacrosse, football, rugby, you name it.
Okay. I just find it hard that they hadn't responded to any of us on that, so, okay.
Teresa, in the, down the road, because looks like you're using the money very wisely, I didn't see anything about like picnic tables or benches for the parents when they go and watch their kids and things like that, and make it maybe the parks more family-oriented instead of just kid-oriented. And I know
Right.
parents can bring one of those canvas chairs like we all have hauled around, but it would be nice in the future if maybe a few picnic tables and benches could be added.
Absolutely, and we do address those through our regular budget.
Okay.
Constantly replacing benches and tables that have been damaged or adding where we need to add.
Okay, thank you.
What is the plan for the property directly across the street from Pecan Grove West currently? Is that going to be a parking lot there? Is it just going to stay a green space, or, you know?
That's currently city property.
Yep.
Right now, I always thought it was just going to remain green space. I had not heard that that we were going to make a parking lot on that side. We do obviously use it for overflow parking for Lights on the Lake and any other big events like that. But right now, we use it for practices for soccer, and I don't want to take any of those away.
Right.
There, we'll also be able to determine and have to take a look at on-street parking. You know, as Pecan Grove West develops and Canyon Creek West and houses get put out there, you know, parking on the north side may not be possible, but it's a fairly wide street, and it could be that on game days that there's on-street parking on both the west side of Shady Oaks and the east side of Shady Oaks along Canyon Creek. So I think we'll have plenty of parking between the park. What is it?
365, I believe.
65 spots at the new ball fields, and some on street there. So I think there'll be plenty of parking for most events, right? Don't you feel that way?
Parking is it's very expensive to put in parking, and it takes away from the recreational amenities that we can add. So
Yeah.
There's a balance there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Council, any other questions? All right, thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update.
Yeah.
All right. At this time, we'll receive presentation from Police Chief Zachary Flores on the Police Department's upcoming programs.
Mayor. I want to take opportunities to brief y'all quickly on a couple of things that we've got going on. The first that I'd like to talk to you about is the chaplain program, something we haven't had at the police department. It's a program that we're going to kick off on a volunteer basis. I'd like to introduce you to Nathan Kane. He's a pastor out at Harvest Time. And we've gone through a vetting process similar to what we do with our police officers. A very thorough background check to bring him on as a volunteer to be our lead chaplain. We've done quite a bit of research. It's taken a while for us to get to this point to make sure that the program fits what we believe we need. We have a need in that we respond to a lot of situations that our citizens just aren't well equipped to handle, whether it be for an emotional need or something else. And to be quite honest, we adopt that as the police when they don't teach you that in the police academy. Oftentimes we get that because we're out at 2 in the morning. The chaplain program is something that we're going to be able to use to help us in that, to help our citizens get things that they need. This program is going to start with Nathan. Nathan is going to help us by identifying and vetting other members of the community so that we can have a diverse background and a diverse group of people to be in this chaplaincy program so that we can help members across the spectrum. There's a number of chaplain programs that have been very successful, and we're looking forward to kickstart ours, but we want to make sure that we do it in a wise way and that we do it in a way that's just going to benefit the citizens. Nathan, you have anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just say it's an honor to serve alongside Chief Flores and our police department and to serve you and our community and to be a spiritual representation, but even more so to connect with both lay leaders and also other pastors and spiritual leaders within our community to help them to bridge the gap and to meet both the physical needs and also the spiritual needs of our community.
Does anybody have any questions for Nathan or myself concerning the chaplain program?
When will that start? I mean, what's the rollout of?
Here within the next week or so. So we have the policy, we've done everything vetting Nathan. It's just making sure that we get our officers on the right page. We don't want to be calling Nathan out every night but we do want to use him for things such as death notifications and things like that that are extremely sensitive, and it's beneficial when you have somebody with a little bit more training in that area that we can help. So probably within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Thank you, Nathan. The second item that I wanted to address is still in its infancy. We want to make sure that y'all are aware of it. We ran into a need, of course, as you well know, with needing officers. We look to have our officers out on the street in a reasonable amount of time. And one of the things that we need to do that is an academy. We need, right now, we depend on Grayson County or Collin, and we're at their disposal whenever they have an academy. Thanks to Chief Fair and Lieutenant Dean, done some research and found that we meet the requirements that the state has to have our own department police academy, so that we can provide the training for our officers to make sure that we get them out there in a quicker amount of time. We'll have control over the frequency, how often it's done, the curriculum, and the instructors. Those are three major issues that we have whenever we deal with any academy. And that's not to say that we've had a problem with Grayson or Collin, but one of the things that we need is the frequency. We need to be able to have an academy when we have the need for officers. We don't think that it's wise for us to hire somebody and then wait several months to send them to the police academy. We don't want to do that. We have the resources and the manpower to put on a police academy, so we're going through the beginning stages with the state, exploring that. We've had a lot of good feedback from neighboring agencies that they don't meet the qualifications to have their own academy. So they would be able to use us and the resources, and they would be able to help supplement this too. So it's not something that we're looking to fund for everybody else, but they would help supplement it to be able to train the officers, and we'd be able to train them in how we want Sherman officers to present to the public. The quality of Sherman police officers is very important, and we want to make sure that we can start that from day one. And so again, thanks to Chief Fair and Lieutenant Dean for the work that they put in on the front end, and that they continue to do to make sure that we walk through this process. Something that we'll make sure that we evaluate as we move forward. But we see many police departments that do have the capability of having a police department. They're moving towards that. There's just a number of benefits to it. So with that will have a direct correlation for us as well as the fire department, as they typically send people to the police academy as well for investigations and things like that. So a direct link for a couple of our departments. Any questions concerning the police academy?
The curriculum. You said that one of the parts was the curriculum. Do we already have the curriculum available, or do we have to develop our own curriculum? Or are we just going to use one that, like the other cities are using?
That's a good question. The state mandates the minimum curriculum that you will have.
Okay.
So we know what the minimum is, and they provide it to you. There's no cost for that. They provide it to you because they create the test, and they know what they want Texas officers to know. We would be in charge of some of the things above that. Right now, we send somebody to the police academy, they do not learn what the Sherman policies and procedures are. Okay. They don't know what the Sherman codes are, which they're responsible for when they get out on the streets. Mm-hmm. And so this will be something that we believe we can actually reduce the time of sending officers through training, because we'll be able to consolidate it.
And who are going to be the instructors? You don't have to necessarily, I mean, it's somebody we already have in-house.
Right. So that's
a secret, huh?
That's a good question, and I'll tell you that kind of what's funny.
Chief Fair going to be the instructor.
What's kind of funny about that for me is that if we send somebody, we have instructors, okay, for the police department, but if we pay somebody to go to another academy, we pay for them to go to the academy, and then oftentimes what happens is our officers leave work and go teach that academy. So it just seems very reasonable for us to host our own if we have enough. Yep. And if we don't, there's not financially positive for us to do it. We could still send them to another academy. And we've talked to the academy and let them know that we still want to have a good working relationship with them. But at the size that we are, and with growth that we see coming, this has the potential to be fiscally responsible for us.
Great. It sounds really good. I like the idea.
That is my question is, I guess, I know you're in the early stages of this, but what you've kind of penciled out looks like a pretty substantial savings, or at least a break even, and we get to control everything ourselves.
Right, we get a lot of control ourselves. It prevents us from paying for our officers to go somewhere and then them get paid for somebody else to go teach them. And we would be able to do it within the scope of our department and the hours that our officers work. So it could be an assignment for somebody to teach their specialty that day. We have officers that specialize in a number of different things, and they could step away, teach that for the day, and then we could have somebody else come in for a different specialty. But it does look like it would be something that would save us a substantial amount of money.
And sometimes those savings are, could be in hard dollar cost of, not writing a check to XYZ Academy. The other thing, though, is when we hire an officer, we pay them as an officer while they're in the academy. And so to the extent that we can shorten the amount of time between when they start the academy and when they're alone, by themselves on the street, that saves, that puts boots on the ground more quickly than would otherwise happen, which is a savings or an efficiency, or however you want to look at that. So really has a great potential. What I've told Chief is thankful for the Chief and really for Bob and the entire staff, for Stephen Dean and those that have worked on it. But it's the first time we will have done this. I'm sure there'll be tweaks, right? It's not going to be perfect day one, is it, Bob? Okay. So, but we're willing to tweak it, and we're not going to continue to do things that don't work. You know what I'm saying? So we'll do it, and give it a crack, and there'll be tweaks, and we'll make adjustments as we need to. So I'm real excited about that they brought this forward, and I thought it's just very creative of them to think about this.
And there is the potential. We haven't narrowed down an exact cost, but there's other agencies are very eager to do the same thing. It's costing them money to sit on an employee that they're waiting to get to the police academy or they're waiting to get out. So there's other neighboring agencies that are excited about the potential for another option, and that they believe that we have the quality that they want. And so I don't want to say that it would be necessarily a self-funded program, but it is something that we could receive money from other places to train their officers also.
I know you guys are working on your remodel currently. Do you have the space now to do this, like as far as facilities are concerned? Or?
Right. We do believe that we do. However, we're also in conversations with some other organizations, kind of as a cooperative. We have the range. There's another police department that we're working with to have a better driving facility. But we do believe we have the resources, the areas that we need. And we're going to try to prevent from jumping from classroom to classroom. During the remodel, we may need to. But we're also looking to maybe cooperate with some other government entities and see if we can't use a facility somewhere that, because the thought behind this is that it is something that could benefit the entire area. But the heart of it is to make sure that we get our Sherman officers trained in a timely manner.
Great.
Super.
Good.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, we are down to citizens' requests. Is there anyone here to address the council this evening? Immediate questions? Billy? No? Okay. All right, at this time, we'll consider board and commission appointments. Keep Sherman Beautiful. Staff recommends the appointment of Ms. Stephanie Wyatt and Mr. Trace Rossi to Keep Sherman Beautiful Commission. Council?
I move to accept.
Okay.
A second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, we are down to council comments. Josh, I'm going to start with you this evening.
I have no comments this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, no comments. No.
No comment.
Wow.
Guess no comment.
Peer pressure. Okay.
Well, I just want to take this moment to tell David, thank you, and Teresa, thank you for coming out to Coffee with the Mayor last week and giving us the Parks and Recreation update. and just greatly appreciated you guys doing that, so.
It's a lot of fun.
I think everything we've doing with the new fire station that was a great thing for the city, and all the work that Parks and Rec is doing, I'll just keep it up. And then we'll learn a little bit more about what Chief is after, so.
Okay, we've got some announcements this evening. Sherman's own Melita Elshire will be hosting a community blood drive tomorrow, Tuesday, February 6th. The Bloodmobile will be at the Sherman Municipal Building from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., so come out and help a great cause. On Saturday, February 10th, our wonderful Sherman Main Street community will be hosting a Mardi Gras celebration in downtown Sherman. Building on the success we had last year, the game for 2018 will be Downtown Business Bingo, which sounds like a lot of fun. Please make plans to attend. Teresa, can you tell us just a little bit about the dog event?
We have some pet-related vendors. We'll have fencing set up so dogs can run off leash. We'll have food trucks. Like I said, we'll have a little bit of input from citizens on what they would like to see in a dog park. And it'll be out here on the municipal grounds on Saturday from 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Okay, thank you. Sounds like a lot of fun. And finally, mark your calendars for the second annual Sherman Celtic Festival on Saturday, March 24th. This event drew thousands last year. I can't wait to see what they do with it this year. That was a really fun event. Did you get to go?
I did not, but I want to take back my no comment.
I don't know
I
about
have
that.
one comment.
All right, well, let me
One
finish.
comment.
Well, let me finish. All right, also, this weekend on Sunday, I don't know if everybody got to see, there was an article in the Dallas Morning News about the success of Sherman recently. If you haven't had an opportunity to see it, it's available online, dallasmorningnews.com. Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Robbie, how many residential permits did we have pulled last month, the month of January?
So we had 23 new permit for construction for residential. And I didn't have time to look up what it was last January, but generally January is probably the slowest month of the year, so it was probably
That's a big
8 to
number for
10.
January.
We do all we can.
Just piggybacking some of the things that were mentioned in that Dallas Morning News article,
it's
I wanted to bring that up because that's, once again, it's a continuing of good news for the growth.
Absolutely. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in now that we?
That would
So
break the rules.
all right, the city council will now hold a closed executive session pursuant to the Texas Open Meetings Act at section 551.071 to consult with the city attorney concerning pending or contemplated litigation and on a matter in which the city attorney's duty under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, and at section 551.087 to deliberate regarding economic development negotiations. So at 5:50, we will recess into executive session. Thank you.
Taryn.